Good evening, welcome to Mere Knolls Cemetery. I've just popped in after work to do a short video of a couple of headstones. Probably would have been longer, but as you can tell, as you look up there, the sun is going down shortly, so I just wanted to try and fit in 4 headstones which I think encapsulate quite a lot of Victorian Sunderland history and a couple of the events that happened. When you come in from on the Seaburn side, just over there, through the gates, there's 2 headstones. You quite easily walk past them. Now these are for 2 of the victims of the Victoria Hall disaster. Just a shame to see them in such a state. They get covered by grass. And the lettering's been filled in. Yeah, you can just see the words Victoria Hall. I think is that David Davinson, or I can't remember which 2 these were. I can see 6 years. That was at June 16th, 1883, when 182 of the town's children were laid to rest in the. This one's covered with grass as well. This is, I can see a surname, Venus. And you think, just left like this. I think, what's this, 140 odd years ago. Wow. John George Thomas, the something son of John and Mary Venice, who lost his life at the sad accident at the Victoria Hall, June the 16th, 1883, aged 7 years and I think that's 4 months. And there's also Charles Reginald Venus, who died June the 17th, aged 1 year and 7 months. Suffer the little children. If I remember, I think the brother Charles, just by coincidence, died the following day. Just shows, if that's the one I'm thinking of, the parents, what tragedy, they lost their son on that day at Victoria Hall, then the following day they lost another one. I'm just going to take a picture of that Xenos. There is a group on Facebook called the Victoria Hall Disaster Group, which has got lots of information on the events of that day. There'll be lots of people in Sunderland who had distant family who died that day, so just 2 little headstones. Many people would have probably walked past many times and not realised they're there. I'll tell you what I'll do, I'll put the earth back down, might protect it a little bit. It's a shame they're not stood up and it'd be the first thing people would see. So, Victoria Hall disaster was, well, as it says, it was one of the worst disasters in the 1800s for children, and won't be forgotten. It's always a bit wild, this part. do believe they trim it down. I don't come to Mere Knolls that much, only a couple of times a year because it's the furthest away from where I live. Which, fortunately, I was at work till 6:30, so I couldn't get across. Now this is something else which is part of Sunderland history, and that was shipwrecks and shipping disasters. This fine stone is in memory of the ill-fated crew of the North German brig Moritz Reichenheim of Bath, lost on the 19th of October 1869 at Marsden Rocks. Captain H.G. Schutt of Zingot, aged 62, and then there's a mate J. Bogwart, seaman J. Bold Schwimmer, somebody Pabst, A. Kohler, A. Bals, A. Gildemeister. There was one survivor who had a horrific ordeal. I think he spent the night on the rocks up Marsden, Whitburn. Some of the bodies were washed up as far down as Sunderland, some at Whitburn. In here there is the memorials to hundreds of names are mentioned of sailors, not necessarily all buried here, but who died across the world. Mariners, young lads, sometimes captains' wives and so on. Now some people don't like what they do here when they let the grass grow during the summer. I think it actually looks quite good. Gives it a sort of wild, historic feel. It's normally a lot higher. This is actually died down a bit. I'm just gonna. So we've just seen two for the Victoria Hall disaster. A ship that sank off Marsden Rocks. But that was as you can see, with it being the oldest, this is probably the most historic part of the cemetery and my favourite. Well, look at this. Something to the memory of Benjamin Spence, who died August the 24th, 1857, aged 2 years and I think that's 10 months. So 1857, that's just a year after the cemetery was opened. It's probably also one of the most scenic of Sunderland's cemeteries. Sorry, I'm out of breath. I will do some more videos from here when I get the chance. Just a shame because of the dark night setting in and working. And I live over sort of closer to Sunderland and Bishop William House Cemetery. But there's some fine obelisks and headstones up there. Lots of history. I'm going to head over towards Cutthroat Dean because there's a couple of headstones I just want to show you too. Just sacred to the memory of Matthew Gooding's shipwright, that was like a ship's carpenter, who died October the 16th, 1856, aged, I think that's 39 years or so. He was engaged in the employment of Austin shipbuilder Sunderland for 23 years. He was a foreman, he was an amiable and upright man, and honourably discharged his various duties, and was sincerely beloved by all who knew him. So that's a fine stone for a foreman. It was actually erected by his numerous friends and fellow workmen as a token of respect, so he must have been well liked, because that would have cost a fair whack. Look, he's even got his tools on the back to show what he was. I think we might just be fine before the sun goes down. But look at that view over towards Whitburn with tractor fields. Just to give some idea for anybody who's not from Sunderland, where I'm facing now, that is eastwards, the seafront, and not the North Sea is probably 400 metres away. When this was built, it was literally miles from anywhere. Obviously there was a few bits of cottages and stuff at full well and farms, but it was open to replace the Monk Wearmouth Parish Church, also known as St Peter's. So you can imagine all the people who lived down in Monk Wearmouth Shore, to come up here, it was a hell of a journey. Obviously this was before trams, buses and all that malarkey, so it was either a long walk to come and visit the grave of a loved one. Now look at that, out to Woodburn. Picturesque. You've got, I think there's a stream just runs along the bottom through there, and the two I'm after, I haven't been to these for a while, they tell two stories common in the history of Sunderland, Monk Wearmouth and Bishop Wearmouth, if I can find it. Here is one of them. This is in memory of John William Fenton, who was drowned in the Monk Wearmouth Colliery Pond, October the 7th, 1868, aged 10 years. Now, the Colliery Pond, it doesn't sound like a place you'd want to go and swim, but he apparently was bathing. He lived at Devonshire Street. His house is still there, and so is the street over in Monk Wearmouth. Now, when this was reported, one Yorkshire newspaper also put in a story about, in that same week, so it possibly is the inquest into the death of John, that the inquest jury, the foreman, was the landlord of the pub. And in those days, inquests were held in a pub because there was plenty of room. They would put the body on the table, and obviously the foreman, being the landlord, they went off and got absolutely hammered. So when they came back, the coroner said they were just full of fury and basically a load of nonsense. So he discharged them and admonished them for the behaviour. So I think it is possibly his inquest, because I couldn't find any other children who died in that particular time in this particular area. Now, John also is mentioned over in the area up there, because when his parents died, his name was added, and it tells the story on there as well. John was the son of Henry Marjoram Fenton and Emma Birras, who were from Suffolk. Henry was a merchant tailor, lived over Monk Wearmouth. John also had another brother who was still alive in around the 1930s and lived up Hurstwood Road. He died at the funeral of his best friend. He collapsed, which was quite a sad story. He collapsed and I think he died in the undertaker's car. So this, the full story about John William Fenton, like a lot of the stuff I do, is on Facebook, in all the Sunderland history, for instance, and Friends of Sunderland Cemeteries. And in that story, it does go into detail about the family and the story about his brother and the inquest and so on. So hopefully I've got one more to find. Now, there was literally hundreds of children drowned along the river, the sea, in the Victorian times. Now, the one I'm looking for is for a surname of Quinette. You probably know people in Sunderland with that surname. Is this it? No, never seen. As I said, I've not been here for ages, and it was just a little. I think it might be this. I think it might be this one down here. As you can see, it's fairly sparse with graves of, well, headstones, I should say, because there will be thousands of people buried under here. I believe this was probably the common ground where most people who couldn't afford to purchase a grave in perpetuity were buried. I'm hoping this says Quinette. No. Yes, it is. Remembrance of John son of E.P. Quinette and of Grace Humble, his wife, who died November, I think that's 5th, 1868, aged 2 years and 9 months. This lovely bud, so young and fair, a lovely little epitaph. So it's this 160-year-old, this headstone. I'll give you a close up. Now, the E.P. was for Euphrosyne Paul Quinette. Him and his brother were Frenchmen, and they came to Sunderland. They were shipbrokers, and so most, if you know anybody called Quinette in Sunderland, I believe there's an actress who was in one of the Harry Potter films. She married an actor from Bolden. She will be from this particular family. These two brothers had lots of children. As I said, they were both shipbrokers, and his brother's buried in Bishop Wearmouth Cemetery. Now, there is a story behind this as well, which most of the matches probably what interested me years ago when I first found it, is the fact that when Grace died, they had her niece living with them to help with all the children, because I worked out that Euphrosyne probably had about 15, 16, possibly 17 children in his life. He lived at North Shields with his wife. The niece came from Sunderland to stay with him. When Grace, his wife, died, he took up with his niece. There were about 40 odd years difference. There is a picture of the wedding, and it doesn't look like a happy bunch. So he married his wife's sister's daughter, who was, I think it was about 40, don't quote, it's a long time I did this story, it was about 46 years age difference between the two. But she'd also got with child, so they came from North Shields. The baby was born in Sunderland, and then they tied the knot, and then they had more children together. So that is the Quinette family. So it's in lovely lettering. I wish I could read that lovely epitaph to John. So that's all. I chose that story because it sort of shows the amount of people who came to Sunderland, Bishop Wearmouth and Wearmouth in the 1800s from all over the world. We've come across French, Prussians, Austrians, Swiss, Africa, West Indies. There's quite a lot of an influx of people who came here, not just from the rest of the UK, like the Fenton family. So, sorry that was a little bit rushed, because the light's getting a bit poor now, but as you can see, lovely quiet corner of Mere Knolls Cemetery. So if you did enjoy this video, please give it a like, subscribe if you wish to. Now, as I said, I'm going home because I need my tea. It's been a long day. So anyway, thank you very much. Take care. Bye.